Toss That Shit Podcast. Listen to it every Wednesday.
Please be seated.
Well, thank you, Mike from Long Branch, New Jersey, for that beautiful, absolutely epic rendition of the Waxes podcast jingle. I needed that today. I needed that. It's been a bit of a stressful morning for me. I'm going to a concert tomorrow. That's right. I've been in LA 10 years now, and every summer I say I'm going to go to see a show at the Hollywood Bowl. Probably the most legendary music venue. Well, there's a lot of legendary music venues here in Los Angeles. We got the Roxy, the fucking Whiskey A Go-Go. But, the Roxy is... Say what you will about the Roxy, but the Whiskey A Go-Go is not what it used to be. It's not the same place that the Doors honed their craft. It's not the same place where Motley Crue shot many of their videos in the 80s. Troubadour is a legendary place, but there's not, I think the nicest place is the Hollywood Bowl. It's a tourist attraction. You can go see the Philharmonic there. They have reggae festivals. I think acts such as, fucking adult contemporary acts such as Jason Mraz. They probably have an adult contemporary festival that includes acts such as Jason Mraz. Who else is on that circuit? Whoever the guy that sang "Cause you had a bad day." The guy who sang that song. The guy who sings that song that comes on every time I go to the dentist office. When the guy goes, "You gotta get your head up, oh, you gotta put your head down, eh. I know it's hard. Cause something needed sometimes, but you got to get your head up." Featuring the singer from whoever the fuck sang that song, and Jason Mraz. Sure, there's females in that category of adult contemporary. The AC Fest, Adult Contemporary Fest. Actually goes along with who I'm going to see, because you know who would be the ultimate headliner at that show? Would probably be John Mayer. But he wouldn't want to be. John Mayer's an adult contemporary act that probably doesn't like being an adult contemporary act. He wants to be cool for the kids. But that said, I've been in LA for 10 years. I've never seen a show at the Hollywood Bowl. For the last 5 or 6 years, I always say that this summer I'm going to go see a show at the Hollywood Bowl. So me and my roommate Camila, about a month and a half ago, we're looking up shows this summer for the Hollywood Bowl, and we fucking, we bit the bullet. We said fuck it, and we bought a ticket to the Dead and Company. Playing tomorrow at the Hollywood Bowl. John Mayer is on guitar for the Dead. This is some original members of the Grateful Dead. I believe Bob Weir and Phil Lesh, I believe, are both in the band. I think O'Teal... I should know this information. I did when I bought the tickets. This was like a month ago, though. So here's what happened. I have a different billing address than I do shipping address. Because I have somebody that helps me with my financial stuff since I'm an entrepreneur, since I practice excellent businessmanship. Actually, because I don't practice excellent businessmanship, I have somebody who helps me with my financial stuff. So they actually have the mailing address on some of my accounts. I don't know how much longer that setup is going to last. But the point is, for whatever reason with Ticketmaster, if you get your tickets delivered, you have to have the same billing address and shipping address. So I didn't know that until I had already spent the money on the tickets, and the tickets never went to that billing address. So I ended up calling, and they were like, yeah, well, you can just change it to will call, but you're going to have to show the credit card that you used to buy the tickets. And the problem with that is, right after I bought the tickets, I had an incident of fraud on my credit card. Somebody in Arizona tried to buy some shit with my credit card. So I had to cancel it and get a new one. So I had to fucking print out all this fucking billing statements and all this proof and talk on the phone to Ticketmaster. And just kind of unnecessarily stress myself out. Good news is, once I'm in there, man, once I'm on all the acid and just listening to the music, I accidentally bought, I didn't realize I was buying it at the time. You know, like when, if you go online and, like, say you buy flowers for your mom for Mother's Day, and there's, like, additional check boxes you can get to, like, add cookies, add chocolates, add a note that says I love you. I think in Ticketmaster they had one of those a box like that, like, checked without me noticing it. And I paid like $10 extra per ticket more to get the 3D collector tickets, man. So now I'm going to have 3D collector tickets. And this is like, I remember specifically when I was a young high school, maybe probably like ninth grade. I remember my mom's not super familiar with music. She's a music fan, but I don't think she's very familiar with the Grateful Dead. Because there was an article, she reads the newspaper, and if there was like a music thing, she would always show it to me and Chris. She knew we were interested in music. And one year the Washington Post had like a little article about the Grateful Dead and how they were coming to town. And my mom was like, you should go to this. And I was like, I'll go see them like next year or something. And of course, before the next year could come around, that was the year that Jerry Garcia died. So I should have taken my mom's advice. Like I would have been a person that had seen that live. But now instead, many years, over 20 years later, I'm gonna go see what's left of. That's what it should be called. What's left? The Grateful. No, I'm not gonna say the Grateful Almost Dead. It's kind of fucked up. I'm gonna die one day. We're all gonna die. So is it really that fucked up? We're all gonna die. Did you know that? But yeah, I'm seeing them at a bougie venue in Hollywood for probably double the price it would have cost. Probably fucking 5 times the price would have cost to get that ticket at RFK Stadium. And at that time, you would have got the whole experience, the parking lot. Maybe I would have got the ticket for free. Who's got my miracle? I don't know if you guys are. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that whole genre of whatever. I also don't know if you give a fuck about my experience today buying tickets. But that's why I was in a stressful mood. That's why, I was even stressing about the podcast this morning before I had to make that phone call. I want to read what I got from Jesse W. Hey, Wax, I know for a fact you didn't realize the error in your Patreon tier descriptions because you read the shit out loud twice. But the buddy tier gets more appreciation than friend, even though it's below friend. And I'm concerned if you don't switch friend with pal in the buddy tier, people will send you less money in hopes of getting more appreciation than a friend. Also, what's to stop someone from becoming a friend the week before you finish up the thank you list for your album? Which is God knows when. Which isn't fair to the people who donate upwards of $50 to $200. Who knows? You don't even know when your next album is dropping. I'm not telling you how to thank your fans. I'm just saying it's a little unfair. I pay $5 a week now, and someone pays $5 a week in X amount of months, and we get the same thank you when the gap in donation could be very high. I'd praise you because I'm a big fan, but you get enough of that, and I'm sure you've seen some big titties in Germany. Okay, and I'm jealous of that, so I leave my email content as is, Jesse W. I appreciate the email, Jesse, and let me start by saying I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. A lot of the things I do, especially things where I try to, as I said a couple podcasts ago, when I try to improve my my entrepreneurial savvy, my level of businessmanship, I often fail. I do everything by the fucking seat of my pants. I have no idea what the fuck I'm doing. And when I got this, I was like, wait a second. If somebody puts $5 a week, if somebody clicks on the friend tier on my Patreon, which I just created, $5 a podcast, that's like $20 a fucking month. My podcast is not worth double what it costs to get Spotify Premium. I have to figure it out. First of all, let me start by saying I really appreciate everybody who's donated on the Patreon. The level it's at now, which I'm not even sure where it is, but it's over $50. I know it's over $50. That's where it was when I last looked at it. And for me to get $50 to do a podcast, that's more than enough. That's what I would love that. But it really isn't. What he's saying is that I had a tier with a reward where if you donate $5, you get your name in the thank you section on my album. And he makes a good point. If you did it now, and my album came out in 3 months, let's say fucking 6 months, which is not, I don't think it's going to happen. I think it'll be this, about the end of the summer. But, somebody could just do it 1 week, and now they're in the thank you section as somebody who's been on there the whole time. And I totally understand that. I didn't think about that. I actually did the thank you section on the album thing because that was not an original idea of mine. That was one of the recommended things on Patreon, so I just kind of did that. I don't really want people to pay $20 a month for me to do the podcast. I'd love to make $20 a month, but not from the same person. So that said, on my to-do list for tomorrow or today or whatever the fuck I get some free time because I got a really long to-do list right now. I'm going to reorganize my Patreon. I don't know how this is going to work, y'all, but I don't want you guys to have to pay $5 every time. It does seem like a lot. Or you know what? Maybe I'll think of a way that because maybe you guys are just nice. Maybe some people that listen to Wax's podcast are billionaires. They're already laughing out loud at the patheticness of me acting like $20 a month is a large amount of money to them. To them, they pay $20 in the morning just to watch a baby cry or whatever billionaires do. And if it's not a big deal for you, maybe I just need to maybe the reward needs to be better. Maybe I need to do like a special thing I'd have to do a special thing like every month for people who are on the $5 thing. Every month I put out an album with the thank you section on it. You know what the fuck I'm saying. So I'm going to figure it out. Y'all. I wrote down something this week that I wanted to talk about. I can't remember what it was. Oh. That's stupid. You know how bad it is to work at I don't know if you know this, but before I started making enough money to survive, my last real job, I worked for a few months at a retail store at a mall. It's fucking sucked. But before I got that job that my friend hooked me up with, I was applying at CVS. And I didn't get the job at CVS. I actually failed the personality test. They gave me the job. I had an interview at the CVS. They gave me the job. But during that, after the interview process, you have to fill out a personality test. And it came back from the CVS corporate headquarters as having a pass. I remember they called me up and they said, well, in order to work at CVS, you have to have a green dot next to as the results of your personality test. You had a red dot. I didn't fail the personality request. A personality test that is required to work at CVS. I don't know how I didn't do it. I don't really remember what the questions were. I do remember that the answers were 1 through 5 from strongly disagree to strongly agree. 3 being like didn't feel a certain way. I probably overanalyzed all of it. But if you saw some of the people that were working at the CVS where I applied, knowing that they passed the personality test and I did not, it was a little bit disheartening. But none of that, all that's besides the point. The point is, I just was thinking the other day how people that do work at CVS, and this is how bad it sucks to work at CVS. I'm so glad I never got the job, so that I'm speaking about this in a third-person perspective. And I also, ahead of time, I preemptively apologize to anybody that works at CVS. And let's be honest, when you were a kid and they asked you in kindergarten, what do you want to be when you grow up? You didn't say a CVS associate. And that's what that brings me to my point. It sucks bad to work at CVS, and this is how bad it sucks. People that work there aren't even willing to fully commit to the fact that they work there. What do they call people that work there? Associates. That job's so so dumb. I can't believe I wrote this down. Working at CVS sucks so bad that people are only willing to say that they're associated with CVS. People that come to them at the job. Hey, you work here? Nah. Well, I'm associated with the company. It's not like I'm, air quotes, part of the team, unquote. Just associated with them. I mean, like, yeah, they give me a shirt. They kind of, they give me a shirt that says their name on it. It's free. I mean, you wear a free shirt, right? Somebody give you a free shirt, you rock it, right? It's like that, but, sometimes you get a free shirt, you got to, kind of hang out with them, you know what I mean? Promote their brand, Develop some photos. Just thought that was weird that they call them associates. Guess they're part of it. Maybe I always think of the term associated with the term loosely associated. When you're associated with something, I guess there really is a wide definition of the word associated. Like, you could be like, yeah, you're associated with your fucking wife and your kids. You are associated with them. Deeply. I have a lot of thoughts like that. Been having a lot of them recently like that with associate. I also the other day I was in Echo Park, which is part of Los Angeles. I was in Los Angeles, closer to downtown than I'd live. And when you get out of town and onto the highway, you take the 5. Some people, where I'm from, you would call it Route 5. And then you get off the exit. It says 5 north towards Sacramento. Sacramento's like a fucking 6-hour drive. Most people are not going to Sacramento. Like, yeah, it's towards Sacramento, but that's really far away. We've all seen that. A lot of times road signs for big highways, I mean, they're really judging your trip much more grandiosely than you probably are intending. I mean, you're just really going 15 minutes away. Like, I wanted to get to the northern part of LA from the middle part of LA. Doesn't really matter to me that it's going towards Sacramento. So I was just thinking, like, where was this 5 south going? Towards Antarctica? You know what I mean? How far are we going to take this? Like, why even stop at Sacramento? Why not towards Vancouver? Why not Alaska? Why not the North Pole? I don't know what the point of that is. I guess, I mean, if we're being realistic here, a lot of people on the roads are taking long trips. A lot of truck drivers on the road. A lot of people are on the road not to deliver themselves to a place. They're delivering cargo to a place. A lot of travel is cargo travel. And that includes air, land, sea. What the fuck? It's not all passenger travel, folks. It is not all passenger travel. NAPT, napped. Not all passenger travel. A lot of people thought it was. People thought that when you send a package somewhere, they just strap it to the back of some person who was headed that way already. Thought UPS stood for fucking unintended passenger shipment. They just slip a letter into their pocket. That's what they say at the airport. Where are you headed, sir? Rio. Oh, cool. Turn around. All of a sudden, you got a letter to some Portuguese old lady. The fuck? Ugh. I mean, she wouldn't be necessarily Portuguese. Speaks Portuguese. Did I write anything else down? I wanted to talk about the Patreon thing. I'm going to try to improve my Patreon shit, y'all. Again, I really, really appreciate you guys that are already pledging. If you didn't hear last week's podcast, Patreon is a service on the internet where, like, if I do a podcast, you can be like, since I don't have advertising or anything. I try to get advertising, but I have enough downloads. They said you need this many downloads to be considered for advertising. I have double that many. The podcast is getting popular for some reason. Not popular, but more popular. Unlike all my other shit. Unlike all my other fucking social media pages that I don't update enough, I guess. Unlike the number of Twitter followers that I have, the numbers on my podcast are steadily on the incline. Yeah, so like, if you wanted to give me 50 cents every time I put out a podcast, you could do so. $1, whatever. Patreon.com/bigwax. But don't even go there yet. Wait till the next podcast. I'm going to try to figure it out better. For all you guys that already are donating, just stay put. I think that I have your email addresses now because of because of Patreon. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know what I'm doing. But I will update you guys and we'll figure it out. If you wanted to get your name on the thank you, it is a guarantee. If you're currently on the $5 thing, no matter what happens, you will be in the thank you section of my next album. Don't worry. No matter what happens. And I'm working on that album. A lot of y'all motherfuckers think I'm full of shit. A lot of people think that my word is not bond because of all the times that that's been true. But I really am working on this album. I'm working on an acoustic album. I even have the name of it. Maybe I'll wait till next week to do the reveal of the name. Nah, fuck that. It's gonna be called B.A.A.A. Bitch ass acoustic album. This is what it's gonna look like. It's gonna say B.A.A.A. Wait, no. Wait. B.A.A.A. And that's an acronym that stands for bitch ass acoustic album. In other words, bah. And it's gonna have a fucking sheep on the cover with my face on it. Maybe the sheep, I'm not, may or may not, the sheep may or may not be playing an acoustic guitar, or maybe the sheep will have an acoustic guitar strapped to its woolly neck. Still haven't decided that, but it is going to be called Bah. It's going to be called the Bitch Ass Acoustic Album. And I'm working on it currently. And last night the shit we did it's going to be super dope. It's going to be a fun listen, some good songs on there. Oh, that reminds me. This summer I'm going to be putting out a bunch of acoustic videos. I got to figure out exactly how I'm going to do that, but I think I'm going to start this Monday. I'm going to do the Acoustic Monday series. I don't even remember if I already announced all this shit. Last week I might have said all these things and I'm acting like I'm revealing something new to you. You know why? And this is something I was thinking about today. I don't know. It's very difficult for me. I do a lot of writing, right? I write comedy, I write jokes, I write songs, I do podcasts, I talk to my roommates, I do a lot of just like thinking and observing. And when I talk to people, I often say the same thing I just said on my podcast, which was the same thing I just talked to my brother about on the phone, which is the same thing I just talked to the new girl I'm dating, which is the same thing that I wrote a song about. My point is that, and this is especially true for girls that I talk to, that I'm trying to be romantic with or whatever, in the past, I've many times gotten in trouble, if you can call it that, for something such as the following. Like I'll see a girl for the second or third time and I'd be like, "So where'd you go to school?" And she looks at me, her mouth drops and she's like, "Remember last time I saw you when we talked for like an hour about where I went to school?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, where was it again?" And once she tells me, I kind of remember all the details, but I don't. I'm so in my head all the time, and I think this is true for a lot of creative people, especially considering a lot of creative people also have done a lot of drugs. It's hard. It's hard for us to remember who we said what to, or did we tell you this, or did we not tell you that, or what did you tell? Like all this information is kind of swirling around, and I mean, I don't even remember why I started talking about this, but fuck, what was the original thing that brought me to this? Hold up. Sorry, I just hit stop and went back and listened to why I was talking about that. It's because I didn't remember if I told you guys or not about the acoustic album name and all that I was putting out. Because I've told so many people, I've thought about it a lot. I've talked about the cover art to people. The album itself, me and Davey have been producing some of the songs. I've been writing the songs. I plan on doing this thing this whole summer. I'm going to do a thing called Acoustic Monday, where every Monday, I've already shot some of them. Every Monday, I'm putting out a video of me playing one of the songs. Not all the songs that from the Acoustic Monday will be on the album, but I'm going to do a new acoustic original song every Monday of June, July, and August. And I'm just going to film myself playing it in my backyard. Nice little summer series. No idea if I fucking told y'all this already. Because I've told so many people about it, talked about it. And at this point, I don't know how to keep my podcast life separate from my personal life, separate from my business life, separate from the life that exists inside my brain where I'm constantly talking to myself. So I have no idea if I just revealed any information to you that's new. Some of you might be listening to this podcast for the first time, so everything I say is new to you. There's probably at least one person out there who doesn't even know how they got to this podcast. Maybe they were listening to, what's the letter before? WX. Maybe they're listening to the Wall podcast. WAW. Women Against Workstations. Women Against Willpower. Which is a podcast, a very popular podcast about women who just succumb to their addictions and just never give up on their bad habits. Women Against Willpower, which is the podcast that in some hypothetical alphabetical order podcast list comes before Wax's podcast. Maybe you were listening to that. And as women without willpower often do, they've been drinking and smoking, they fall asleep. Wake up, all of a sudden you're at the fucking 141st episode of Wax's podcast. You're like, who is this guy? What is he talking about? And where can I get this new album? This sounds amazing. It is going to sound amazing. It's going to be fire. I also have me and Davey's AD side project coming out sometime soon. Already mixed and mastered. First video already shot and being edited as we speak. Working on some stuff. But for all you wowers out there, on Wax's podcast, I know in the middle of the Wall podcast, Aunt Jane, the host of the Wall podcast, is this lady named Aunt Jane, and she talks like this. She's been smoking forever. I know in the middle of her podcast, she stops to read emails from people, women against whatever the fuck, man. Here's questions and shout outs. I'm going to shut the fuck up about this hypothetical podcast real quick. All right. Let me get to my fucking email. Hey. Okay. All right. First off, for anybody that's new to Wax's podcast or hasn't been listening to the last few episodes, this is not Wall. Not Women Against Willpower. We're pro willpower on this podcast. We encourage quitting. This is a thing we're doing right now. Nick Shea is riding his bicycle from Boston to New Orleans, and he's going to stop in all kinds of places, and here's his update. He actually sent me 2 updates this week. What's up, Wax? Just a short update. I'll write more in a little. In 2 days, I rode from Boston to New London, Connecticut. I stayed at a man named Philip's house the first night. He was from New Zealand, and his partner was from Japan. He rode 11 miles with me in the morning. Where do you find these people? I need more information than that, Nick. I need, like, how the fuck did you find someone? Is this just Airbnb or something? Last night I stayed with an old man named Richard. His wife lives in a shoe. They had so many children, they didn't know what to do. No, I'm just kidding. Last night I stayed with an old man named Richard. He makes furniture and told me that a bunch. He picked me up around 10:30 and is a very nice guy. He lives in a mad nice house on the water. I like that you gave me the exact time that he picked you up, but I have no idea how you met him. He picked you up somewhere. That's what nice of him. Two ladies at the restaurant I ate at were loving me. One gave me the classic Italian woman hug and kiss on the neck that all older Italian women must do. I'll be taking the ferry to Long Island in about an hour or two. Spent a lot of time alone the past 2 days. This is where Nick is going to get a little bit deeper. Feels good. Feels lonely sometimes, though. I've often been asking myself, what the hell am I doing out here? Especially when I'm in the middle of nowhere. But when I connect with people, it feels worth it. Met a guy who said he lived in the woods for a long time. Not really sure what that means, but he told it to me while he was taking out the trash. I'll write some more of what I've been thinking on the ferry. Peace, man. Have a good day. I guess I'll read his next thing he sent me. I think a few days later. Before I make any comments on it, I'll say so then he sent, "Yo, man, I'm in New York now. Took 5 days to get here. I hate the suburbs and was getting really depressed being alone on the highways and stuff. So excited to be here. I've been recording street performers and will be creating a piece with street performers from everywhere I go." Oh, that's dope. "I'm also looking for rappers to cypher with me so I can get them on this project. Feel free to give out my email on the podcast if anyone wants to hit me up in this area or any of them. Life is extremely crazy. People have been so kind. A man saved me from the cops when I went over a bridge I wasn't supposed to. I don't have an ID, so they would have fucked me up." You don't have an ID and you're riding your bike from Boston to New Orleans? That's ballsy. Haven't had to stab anyone yet. If you or any podcast listeners have any ideas or questions for me to answer or discover on this trip, that would be great. I think it could help gear my updates to you. I agree with that. Thanks, Wax. Been listening to Living Foul and Cookout Chronicles for a portion of the ride. Have a good day, man. Talk soon. Okay. Where the fuck is Nick Shea's email address? Let me find this for y'all. Hold up. Yeah, that sounds like a really interesting time, man. That does strike me as odd that you don't have. Hold up. I can't do 2 things at the same time, y'all. Okay. Oh, easy. YoNickShea@gmail.com. YoNickShea. YoNickShea@gmail.com. Hit him up. If you're a rapper and want to be on Nick's project, he says he's going to do a street performance in every city he goes. So if you're on the East Coast or even in the South somewhere, I think if I remember correctly, Nick, you're going through some places in like Alabama and shit too. Check out Nick's. Just email Nick, meet up with him. I hope nothing bad happens to Nick because one of you fucking crazy people. Whatever. Yeah, I can't imagine, dude. I can't imagine riding a bike through the suburbs for 5 days in a row. Like, that's the good thing is it's healthy. You know, you're getting a lot of exercise. I don't know how. I'd like to know for my own purposes. If I was to email you right now, Nick, I would ask you how do you meet all these people where you stay at their house. But yeah, YoNickShea@gmail.com. Hit him up, y'all. Okay, shout-outs for this week. We got Anthony T., who recommends Bliss and Esso. Very popular recommendation on Wax's podcast, by the way. Australian rap group. Anthony T sent me one of their videos, and it indeed was a good song. I gotta check them out more, man. Like I said last week, I don't often get to check out the recommendations because as I'm checking the emails, I'm just really trying to I'm just checking the emails. I don't have time to listen to people's whole mixtapes and short films and not Netflix documentary series, you know. All right, we got Clones 3K. We got Will D, who recommends the Native Tongues Collective, who, of course, is a rap collective from the late 80s, early 90s. Big influence on myself. We got Aaron the Violinist, the one and only Aaron the Violinist. Barbaric Eric. Joey W. from Alabama. St. James. Mark G. Puya from Iran, who is currently making a painting of my face, which is pretty crazy. I'm going to probably post some of that on my Instagram soon. It's fucking crazy, man. I'm blown away by people that can do realistic paintings. I mean, I like abstract paintings and shit too, where you just make like lines and circles and shit. But like, I feel like when I look at that, I'm like, I can maybe do that. You know? To me, that's almost, maybe that makes sense because, you know, when I hear somebody who's a good songwriter, there's a lot of good songwriters who are able to just make some shit that a lot of people can like and just kind of sounds cool or whatever. But if I hear somebody playing the violin like a virtuoso, I'm like, I could never do that, you know. That's how I feel about it. If you could give me the rest of my life, it's just not something I can do. Like if there's somebody's face and they're like, yeah, paint this. You could sit me down in front of fucking Mike Tyson and Macaulay Culkin and tell me to paint their faces. God, those are old references. Who's the new version of that? Fucking who's the new Mike Tyson? I don't know. I don't pay attention to boxing. Out of all people in the world, I try to think of two people that look different from each other. I came up with Mike Tyson and Macaulay Culkin. Those two names were somewhere in the back of my brain. It's kind of like when you, if you were to close your eyes and stick your hand in like a fucking, just a vat of, like an aquarium, all kind of different fish and trees and trash. Just what? That's my brain. I just reached back in there, and those are the two names that came up. And as I get older, I guess it's just, you know, I don't have modern. That aquarium hasn't been cleaned up in a while, you know. Still got fucking Pepsi soda cans that don't have that look like the ones from 80s movies. Still got clear Pepsi soda cans in there. This hasn't been cleaned out in a while, yo. What the fuck? And Jose C. Jose C is another shout out. Here we got a letter, an email. Not a snail mail letter with a stamp or postcard. It is an email. beatsforwax@gmail.com, y'all, if you want to email me. Dear Wax, I want to begin recording music, but I don't really know where to start. I play guitar as well as piano, and I want to make something more moody and alternative, like a I never knew how to pronounce Sigur Rós or Swans. Man, you're fucking... I don't fucking know anything, dude. I don't know that genre of music probably as well as you do, but I was wondering what digital audio workstation you would recommend as well as an audio interface. I was also thinking about getting a sample pad since I don't play drums. Although, do you think I should just get drums and learn? My goal isn't to become a professional musician or anything. I just love music and I really want to create something. By the way, I'm not rich or anything and I'm a fucking dishwasher, LOL. So I'm looking for something affordable with good quality. Anyways, thanks for the advice, Aaron S. I used to wash dishes at a restaurant when I was in high school. It was kind of a pain in the ass, and you definitely felt kind of. I mean, you definitely got dirty, and at the end of the night, you had that. You know that, like, if you've ever worked at a restaurant, maybe you can relate. There's like a smell that you have when you come home from a night working at a restaurant that, like, the smell of all things restaurant kind of combine to like old celery juice or something. I'll tell you how it always smelled, you know. When you're like, well, celery doesn't smell that bad. That's because part of the shit you're using all night is soap. You know what I mean? Like that very fucking gross thing you touch, you also like are touching soap. So it's kind of like a combination of all food and soap, and it just comes out to just like the strong scent of old celery. But the cool thing about being a dishwasher compared to when I used to wait tables was waiting tables was much more stressful. You had to think about a lot of things at once. I was really bad at it. I would always forget that somebody just asked me. Like as soon as somebody like I'm walking by and someone's like, "Oh, can I get a side of fucking whatever?" Then I forgot what I was supposed to do forgot whatever I was thinking of before. You know, it's just like in this podcast earlier when I had to go back and listen to why the fuck I was saying something in the first place. Like I can't, my brain for the most part when it comes to doing stuff like that, it's kind of like what's a good analogy here? Like if you just saw like a Chinese one piece of a Chinese checkerboard. You put a marble in there. In order to get a different marble in there, you got to flick out the other marble. Whereas people who are good at waiting tables and multitasking, who are generally women, honestly, not everybody, but women, I would argue, are probably better at multitasking. It's more like a Pez dispenser or a Connect 4, an empty Connect 4 thing. Like when you put a piece in there, you can actually stack additional thoughts on top of it without having to lose the original thought. Speaking of which, how the fuck did I get to that from you asking me about digital audio workstations? Oh, because you said you were a dishwasher. The reason I wanted to answer this is because people send me these kind of questions a lot. Even I haven't talked about this on the podcast in a while, but people always ask me for advice on software and microphones and all this stuff. Just want to let y'all know I'm not really an expert on that stuff. I do know how to use Pro Tools. I now use Logic for the podcast, but I know people that use Logic. I know people that use Pro Tools. A lot of producers will use Machine or Ableton. Ableton is a really popular one for young people. People used to use Fruity Loops. People used to use whatever. And my point is, it doesn't really matter what you use as long as you know how to use one of them. You know, I've worked with a lot of people, and they all use different shit. So I don't think that there's. I see people arguing about it, and it just when I see people arguing about what digital audio workstation is better, I'm just kind of like, it's usually people that aren't that great at music. I don't know. It's like, dude, like, made the old Beatles and Hendrix albums on a 4-track. It's the music, man. It's like, if you ask Da Vinci, a lot of people, when people go into the Sistine Chapel, not many of them are like, hey, man, what kind of paint is that? What kind of paint did he use? What kind of brushes? Man, killing it with the analogies today, huh? But I use Pro Tools. If you want me to just tell you what I use Pro Tools. I have a Motu 828X interface. I don't recommend Pro Tools. Currently, the Pro Tools that I use it's kind of virusy. I really need to update it, but I don't feel like going to Guitar Center. I hate Guitar Center. Sample pad, probably a good idea. A lot of people use the Machine. A lot of people just find a MIDI sample pad. It can be compatible with any of those programs, right? Just like a MIDI keyboard would be, except with pads. And then you call it a day. As far as getting drums, if you said you don't want to be a professional musician, I wouldn't get a drum set then. Depending on where you live, it's really loud. Your neighbors will complain. Your roommates or family will complain. And if you're just trying to make some digital music, a lot of times you can really just get just as good of results with programmed drums. And what some people often do is if at the end of the day, it's like, man, this would be better with real drums. You can find somebody that will play them. But, if you're a dishwasher and not rich, I don't know if you're hiring a lot of session drummers either. But, you're also not buying a lot of drum sets. I hope that helped. Probably didn't. But thanks, Aaron. Appreciate you listening regardless. Hey, Mike, this is from Marion. Oh, Marion, a.k.a. Ghost in the Pines. What's up, girl? One of my favorite podcast listeners, and you're about to find out why. Oh, I think I'm going to, I got to post this on my Instagram. Hey, Mike, this is what I came up with. Obviously, you can't see this picture. If you remember from last week, Marion was going to make a podcast burger. Just listen. This is what I came up with. However, it's hard to see the name Wax, though. I don't have any Photoshop programs to fill it in. She used the Wax branding iron on the bun of her burger because you can't see, if you have a burger and you put a bunch of stuff on it, you can't see the brand, the Wax logo brand. This burger might be one of the best I've ever eaten. It will be on my regular menu from now on as the Wax's Podcast Burger, the official burger of Wax's Podcast. I love it that it repeats itself like that. I tried branding the meat itself, and it looks good, but it gets covered by the toppings. Dude, this was really fun. I've been really stressed out lately. It was an awesome diversion. Let me know what you think. And she says, P.S. I totally would brand random food if a customer/fan asked. So if you don't know, Marion, a.k.a. Ghost in the Pines, owns the Texas Road Stand in Cedar Creek, Texas. And it's the official restaurant of Wax's Podcast. And now it's been confirmed that if you ever go there and you want something branded with the Wax logo, then Marion will make that happen for you. I am going to go and see if she replied to me before because I was asking her about the exact toppings. What were the exact toppings? I don't know if she got back to me, but I know it looked like there was like onion straws on top of a big ass burger. Yeah, they're tossed in seasoned flour and then flash fried, and I just kind of stack them on top of the burger like, hey, I love them. They have a very distinct flavor. This picture she sent me of the Wax's Podcast burger looked fucking incredible. And I'm really excited about it. I need to make my way out there to have the Wax's Podcast burger. I almost want to just like stay in Austin for a week and just eat there every day and try your whole menu, Marion. But if you happen to be near Austin, Texas, this is right outside of Austin. You can look it up. It's on Yelp. It's on Google. It looks fucking amazing. The Texas Road Stand, official restaurant of Wax's Podcast. So if you live over there, head over there. Marion, you ain't got to put the fucking Wax's Podcast thing on your menu if you don't want to. People are going to be like, what the fuck is that? What do you mean a podcast burger? Doesn't make any sense. Is there beans? What do you mean pod? Is there like beans in it that are from a pod? Peas that are cast in a mold, like cast iron? Fuck, I don't know. But thank you so much, Marion. That's awesome. I'm gonna have to remember to put that picture up on my Instagram after this podcast. All right, we got Sun Eye from Toronto, who, by the way, recommends Mr. Bean, Dexter's Laboratory, and Kids in America by Kim Wilde. Now, this is just part of his email. He writes, I've been writing raps since I was a kid. Never really got any advice from rappers about how prose just flow, but what you visualize when you're rapping, whether it's the words or the scene you're painting. How do you create and remember your lyrics? Do you just blank out in a way? Do you write from the perspective of your, quote, higher self/perspective, quote, speaking? Do you let the rhymes dictate your thoughts /bars/metaphors? I don't know if that makes sense. I'm just coming from where I find inspiration and trying to relate or communicate the elusive process. I feel lyrics come from outside of me, but I was wondering if professionals navigate differently or create more technically from within their mind. Like how Eminem did exercises just writing words that rhyme as ammo, or how Dumbfounded freestyles. I'm just interested if there's a perspective more structured to approach rapping. Or if it's just your influences, practice, and your own inspiration manifesting to make it unique, or if there's crazy secrets out there. I personally just write a lot of stuff and practice flowing the words and putting emotion and editing after. But I usually move on daily and never really practice old songs. I think I just wanted to read this. Sun I is basically asking about how he was asking me how to write and what are you inspired by and what's the process. And I think that my point with wanting to read this was actually very similar to the point I was making as far as the digital audio workstation. I don't think there's a right way to do it. I think you should just do whatever comes naturally. I definitely think freestyling is valuable. If you just hear a beat, or even if you just hear a song on the radio and rap along to it, even just like karaokeing some shit, rapping along to songs, I think is helpful for young people, just to feel how other people are in the pocket, just feel how other people are, just to feel rhythm, I guess. But when it comes to like writing and all that shit, like there's no right answer, man. There's no right way to do it, you know? Some people are more technical with the words and the way the shit rhymes, and some people just say what's on their mind and write things in 2 seconds. Some people freestyle everything. There's no right way to do it. I think that you should just try a lot of shit. It's kind of like that old throw everything on the wall and see what sticks, or whatever the fuck. Throw it all at the wall and see what sticks, I guess. But yeah. I don't know, man. You said, how do you create and remember your lyrics? I think a lot of times with rapping, the reason you can remember the lyrics is because they kind of like flow into each other. Like if you ask most people who write rap songs about memorization, the hardest thing to remember, like say you got a rap song and there's 3 verses, the hardest thing to remember is always the first word of the verse. Like if you know the first bar, you can probably make it to the end of the 16 if you've done the song a few times, but just remembering where it starts is the most difficult part, which is why I always respected Johnny Cash, because some of those songs that he would do where like the 21 minutes to go or whatever, like it's not like this shit just flows into each other like rapping. Like it's like you have to remember 20 different like starting points, you know? That's particular. I think it's called 20. It's something amount of minutes. I think it's 21. It's about a guy who's on death row. He's walking out the 21 minutes that happen before he dies, and it's like the early one, but that's Cocaine Blues. But that Cocaine Blues is just as impressive as that's a long story thing. It's just impressive to me in terms of memorization. I think they have a similar fucking melody. But at the end of every part of the story, he says, with 21 minutes to go, with 20 minutes to go, with 19 minutes to go. He has a line then with 18 minutes to go, then a line that rhymes with the previous one, then 17 minutes to go. Then around about the bit about a daddy do with 16 minutes to go. And I don't know a bit about a who with 15 minutes to go. And like it's just harder to separate every line with a thing like that. Makes it way harder to memorize. But all right, we got one more. This is from Roland R. Roland R is keeping us going with this fruit thing. And yet again, I'm a fucking failure because I said I was going to eat this Mamie Sapote 2 weeks in a row. Today, it's just hitting me like a ton of bricks right now that was a thing. That was yet a thing I forgot to do because of the goddamn Ticketmaster situation and also just being generally irresponsible. I was going to go to the store, get myself a Mamie Sapote that Roland R recommended, and eat it and give my review on the podcast. Because Roland R is kind of on this fruit shit. And this is what he wrote today. I just finished listening to podcast 139. I forgot to mention that in one of my fruit boxes from miamifruit.org, they sent me some lychees, Lychees. I think that is something that you might see in at like an Asian tea shop. I think they have like lychee tea, right? I'm just making that shit up. Now, I've had lychees before, and I didn't like them, so I almost gave them all away, but I decided to give them another try. I am so glad I did, too, because these lychees were different from the ones I had before. The ones I had before weren't good at all. They had some weird flavor that I wanted no part of, but these lychees were very sweet. They are similar to rambutans, LOL. It's almost rambutan season. Whoa, Black Betty, rambutan season, so you might be able to find them soon. Sometimes I go to Asian markets or international stores to find these fruits. But getting back to the flavor of these lychees. To me, they taste like some sort of alcohol. I gave one to a coworker at my job, and he agreed. He said they taste like pineapple pina coladas. Pineapple pina coladas as opposed to what? That's what the pina is. They are now they are, they are now one of my favorites. Something I haven't tried yet that I'm about to go looking for today is purple sweet potatoes. I've heard a lot of great things about them, so I can't wait to try them out. The next fruits I'll be looking for soon, once they're in season, are egg fruit and soursop. SOURSOP. I don't know why I love reading this shit, man. I feel like I like hearing about new things, and I want to go try some of these fruits myself, but I just keep forgetting to do it. And I want you guys on the podcast to know. I'm a man that grew up in a small American town where people didn't try a lot of new things. And you might be like, why the fuck you keep talking about fruit with Roland R? I think it just goes beyond fruit, and it goes more into like, you know what? You can stick to your bananas, apples, and oranges. But you can also try some lychees in life. You can think grapes only come in green and whatever the fuck, what is it, purple? And that those are some exotic goddamn fruit, but you can also live life like Mamie Sapotes are out there. I almost forgot to mention the Mysore banana and the red custard apples. The banana was probably the best banana I've ever had. The flavor was pretty much like a banana, but more fresh tasting and a slightly different flavor. I liked that the description of how it was different was that it was slightly different. Some people, I was just talking a little shit. Some people say that they taste like apples, but I didn't think so. I noticed they had very soft, tiny seeds inside. Now, the custard apple was kind of weird. It was sort of like a strawberry or raspberry or something. It had the consistency of cheesecake, but it was dairy-free. Still very good. Oh, it was dairy-free if it was a fruit. That'd be actually kind of interesting, though, if there was a kind of fruit out there that somehow like bees pollinate flowers. Like maybe the cow has to milk the fruit in order for it to become cheesecake. Like, I don't know. I post a lot of the fruits I try on Facebook and Instagram, but this guy on YouTube has me beat by a long shot. His channel is Weird Fruit Explorer, I think. I'll check that out. Roland. And I'm going to continue to read your fruit stories. If you send me some good ones. And I'm going to try to get my ass out there, okay? I'm going to try to get my ass to some type of exotic fruit place, whether it be Whole Foods, whether it be an Asian market, whether it be a whole nother country. I might take a special trip to I'm just going to look up on Wikipedia a list of countries, and when I see one I've never heard of, I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to ask Google, what kind of fruit is here, and I'm going to make a trip to do that, because you know what, y'all? I'm here. I'm waxing. This is Wax from Wax's podcast. And I'm here to tell you that remember the old poem about the road less traveled? There's a new poem in town. It's by Roland R. It's called The Fruit Less Eaten. I'm looking down at two different paths. These aren't paths you take with your mouth, with your feet. These are paths you take with your mouth. Picture Pac Man. Two paths that Pac Man can take. One path has his blips, the blips that he always eats, and those big flashy fucking things that make him invincible or make him able to eat the ghost for a little bit. But not unlike the game of Pac Man. What else does Pac Man also enjoy? He enjoys occasional cherries and strawberries. And, he goes on this path that he normally goes on. Every 1 inch, there's a dot that he chews on. And every once in a while, a strawberry pops out. Every once in a while, a cherry pops out. Every once in a while, he even might get one of those big chips that make him able to eat yet another food product, which is a blinking ghost. Not bad, he says. Not bad. Him, Miss Pac Man, they make their way down the path. Or they could take the other path. Sure, there's not as many chips in the immediate future. Sure, for a while, you don't hear much audio because you're not chewing any chips. You know in Pac Man when you see that to beat the board, like up in one corner, there's a couple little things you have to eat. But for a while, you're just kind of going around in areas where you've already eaten, you know? It looks like that, but it's not like that at all because there hasn't been a lot of people up that path. People were scared to start where there's not a lot of chips to eat. Looks a little dark at first. But you know what? Once you get around that bend, it's a lot of chips, folks. There's different ghosts. Not just Inky, Blinky. There's new ghosts. Bigger ghosts. More tasty ghosts. Ghosts where you don't even have to be invincible because of the blinking chip in order to eat them. And yeah, sure, there's strawberries, cherries. But there's also lychees. There's also red custard apples. There's also Mamie Sapotes, and thanks to Roland R., most of the podcast listeners would take this hypothetical path rather than the traditional Pac Man path. And it's because of him that I feel confident in wishing you a good day. And I feel great when I say, be safe out there.